Afternoon, it is Tuesday. Excuse me, I started off wrong for I apologize. Today is Monday, July 15th. It's 2 o'clock and I'm calling to order the Resources and Infrastructure Committee meeting. We have a quorum. Committee members present are Derek Williams, Dennis Duchek, and Stephen Seaver. Jim Webb has an excused absence and so does Mark Meeks, but Mark is going to try to join us a little bit later if he can. I do have a chairman's report. I kind of like to get the committee members caught up on the activities of the board since we've had our last meeting 2 months ago.
Yes.
Okay, so on May 16th, the board approved a resolution for financing for the water meter upgrades. On June 13th, the board adopted the resolution for the third rate adjustment on the water and wastewater rates as adopted June 15th, 2022. The board directed staff to advertise for the vacant resources and infrastructure seat. We adopted the climate change recommendations for R&I from the R&I committee and staff with minor edits, and we forwarded the recommendations to the policy committee. So thank you to everybody who worked on that ad hoc committee. On June 20th, we adopted the resolution for the consolidation of the CCSD board election with the November 5th general election. We held a hearing on the draft project description for the WRF coastal development permit and approved submitting it to the county. We held public hearings on the fire hazard fuel reduction program and on the fire suppression benefit assessment CPI adjustments. On July 11th, we interviewed candidates to fill the vacant seat on R&I, and the board approved Dennis Duchek to fill the position. And welcome, Mr. Duchek. We voted to extend the intent to serve for people self-help housing for an additional 18 months for the Schoolhouse Lane affordable housing project.
Yay.
We reviewed the countywide evacuation plan and the Cambria fire prevention plan. We approved the settlement agreement between the CCSD and Coast Unified School District for the SR4 well and access easement. And our next board of directors meeting will be this Thursday at 1 o'clock. And I'll give this to Derek.
Thank you.
Okay. That was my chairman's report. Yes, ad hoc subcommittee reports. Mr. McElhaney has an announcement to make first, though.
So the adaptation planning grant that we were kind of working on for climate resiliency, we turned in a great application. We got a call today and they were continuing to thank us for that application, which I already knew was bad. And they got the call from the state that they canceled that grant in its entirety due to budget shortfalls. So they're going to continue to keep us up to date and inform us, but took away all the funding for that grant. So won't be moving forward with that as of now.
Okay. And although the skate park is not an R&I committee thing, that's a federal grant, isn't it?
It is. It's going through the federal review process. Well, the federal government for Parks and Rec, and so you're kind of working with them in tandem. But I don't believe that should affect our skate park at all.
Hope not. Okay, so ad hoc subcommittee reports. Mr. Williams, I think you're still working on the geomagnetic survey. Will you be ready with a report for that for the next meeting?
Yeah, what has happened in the interim is I met with Mr. Green, Mr. Reaper, and we discussed potential locations. They mapped some locations, sent me the maps. I went out and visited the sites, took some photos, sent the information to a group called Geophysical Imaging Consultants to get their feedback on the viability of those two sites. I have not heard back from them yet.
Okay.
I imagine one of them might be difficult to access. The Green Street site might be difficult to access because it is still fairly wooded and fairly steep. And so I think it's going to be difficult for them to get their equipment across it, but I sent them the information anyway. So we're waiting to hear back from Geophysical Imaging Consultants on a cost or the viability of the sites that we're looking at.
Okay, great. And I think committee member Meeks is still working on the solar hydro panels, but he's not here at the moment to give us an update on where he is. We don't have any other ad hoc committees currently working right now, correct? I don't think you're not on an ad hoc committee, are you? No, okay. Okay, I need to see if we have any public comment on my report or on the ad hoc committee reports. I don't see any hands up. Okay. Okay. Committee member communications. Does anybody on this committee have anything they would like to update us on? No?
Oh.
Okay,
Yes, well,
You got one.
Mr. Tucci.
I just wanted to say, just a short hello, if this is a good time to do that.
Sure.
And I wanted to, and I tend to write my stuff down just because it keeps my thoughts clear and I don't say something, I go, oh, I said that. Anyway, I'm really deeply grateful and humbled for the opportunity to serve the Cambria community as a member of the CCSD R&I committee. I am committed to giving my best efforts in support of urgent resources and infrastructure matters within the purview of this committee, including the efforts to identify, qualify for, and secure federal and other R&I funding. And I have a whole bunch more stuff, but I'm not gonna say. You guys have plenty full of jokes.
Okay, today's public comment will be on agenda items only, as this is a special meeting. And we have quite a long agenda, so I am going to keep public comment to 3 minutes. Our first, and I will call for public comment as we get to each of those agenda items. So on the consent agenda, we have consideration to approve the May 13th, 2024 regular meeting minutes. Does anybody have any corrections or changes that they?
Point of order, did we miss item 1F? Or is that gonna come later?
Why did you nudge me? Your utilities report.
Your utilities.
Oh, yeah, we did kind of.
We
Yeah,
I
missed
love
you.
it.
I'm
It's kind of
sorry.
an update anyways, but we could.
Mr. Green.
Certainly, yeah. Well, we'll begin with the SST program at the wastewater treatment plant. We did receive the construction trailer, so out of that construction trailer as well, they'll be doing, the mapping and, the administrative part to that. We did take receipt of that in early June. SST was to begin. We've had some difficulty and delays in scheduling contractors, plumbing contractors, and to do some of the blower work and some of the underground plumbing work. So we're looking to finally break ground on that SST, physically break ground on that project in about a month, in mid-August. FRM will be out and then we'll start working on the blowers and the other materials. We've got pretty much about half the materials in, from what we understand, Tristan.
I think so. I think they said like what half's been billed already?
Yes.
Something like that, yeah.
Mhm. And Superintendent Artho made a site visit to Arroyo Grande to FRM's basically shop or grounds and did physical inspection of what they have on there. It's covered. It's in a lot better environment than having it out here and storing it. We don't have the space, and our climate out here is not best for those metal pumps and electrical equipment and so those sort of things. So those will come in as needed for installation. So yeah, look forward to starting that in about a month. Our water meter replacement materials have been received. We've got endpoints and registers now. We received that late last week, so we look forward to water department staff starting that in-house. We will be doing that in parallel with our lead and copper compliance reporting due October 24th, I believe, of this year. And that is basically taking inventory of what is after the meter to the inlet into the house there. It's not really our purview, but the Division of Drinking Water has mandated that. So while we're doing these installations, we're going to look at the materials on the other side of the meter and also what's going into the house. And that'll all be viewable off of a website or a link where you can go look at your house and tell what's basically between the meter and your inlet to your house. And it's due to be completed by October 24th, but we look forward to probably a late August completion date for that. So that'll be nice to get that off of our plate. In the meantime, back to water meters. Again, we'll be doing that with some small staff in-house. We're looking for some outside help. We've done a bunch of networking and looked around and asked around, and it's really difficult to find meter installers right now that are trustworthy. There's a couple out there. And we've done some reference and background checks on them. And none of the agencies would recommend or advocate any of those contractors. So here we are, we're doing it on our own. Cody's giving me a dirty look. But we are looking in to get some temporary staff in to kind of clean the meter box and then have water staff come in and plug and play with the new equipment. There's some scanning and there's some other integration that we have to do with the Badger software to get that to work. And then the other end of that is getting it to integrate administratively with our Tyler billing software. So that's coming through the pike, but we will begin this week. So if you see water operation staff in your meter box, either vacuuming or scooping or installing, that's all what we're doing. We're installing our new AMI metering. So we look really forward to getting that completed or at least going. I can touch on the skate park project again, if you like. So OGALS, which I'm not sure what that is short for. I think it's we've gone over this. I forgot it's off the top of my head. Anyway, it's a cultural resources that documentation that we've put. So we've got like a 125-page report that was produced by Cogstone. That's been submitted to them and approved. So basically, we're looking to getting into the construction phase of the permitting. You know, the minor use permit has been granted through county planning. So we have some meetings with our engineering consultant and seeing if we can get that ball rolling with just the basic illustrations and the kind of knowledge that we have about what's going in there to get those construction permit documents going without having that design build ready. So those are some of the things going on behind the scenes there for the skate park. Restroom has again been purchased. We're looking for a late date of January for delivery. It looks like it's going to be a dry season. We're not sure. Usually about the end of January or February is usually when the rain actually starts coming in. So we'll have to kind of play it by ear as we get close because we'll have to do some site prep, and that site prep obviously we don't want to do now and have it exposed to any weather and inclement weather in the in between. So we'll start looking at that about early January for site preparation and then getting that bathroom installed. ZLD we'll talk about in a moment. We'll also talk about the Stewart Street tanks. Well 3, so San Simeon, our third well there at San Simeon, our furthest away from the San Simeon Creek. Obviously, it's been well noted that we had some problems with the pump and so forth. So if you look in the agenda packet for our upcoming board meeting this week, you get some great pictures of the removal and the installation of our new appurtenances there. It's fully function operational. We put a separate line in so that way we can put permanent measuring and monitoring of our well aquifer levels there, both pumping and static. So we look forward to integrating that. Also a new disinfection injection location here that we had approved through Division of Drinking Water. And basically all we're waiting for is the lead time on our VFDs is about 10 weeks. So we're still about a month and a half or 2 months out from putting that VFD in right now, which obviously saves pump life. We can control that remotely, so we can speed up or slow down pumping volume or pumping rates to match our disinfection ratio. So that's coming out, but we do have that well completed and it looks fantastic. And you can see that illustrated in some of the pictures that we took. With that, I think we're ready to segue on to our presentation now. Unless there's any questions.
Yeah, are there any questions from any of the members that are here in person of the public? Anybody on the committee? And I don't see any hands raised on Zoom.
I'm thinking the water meter replacement. So if I understand that correctly, we're just gonna hire temporary staff to supplement the existing staff. Is the problem just a
Correct.
staff problem? We just don't have enough staff right now.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. So
Okay.
we need to prep the meter boxes, usually
Right.
from spring through about now. The gophers get in, they do all their work and you lift off that lid and you can't even see the equipment that's underneath. So we'll have to go in. The register and endpoint are relatively easy though. They're right at the top. We're not having to excavate the entire box
Okay.
to access and remove that whole meter. We're just working on top of it here. So we should make some pretty quick and light work of it. But yeah, we're looking at temporary staff to clean out the boxes so that way water staff can come in. So we're not slowing down that process.
If you could have them remove gophers at the same time. We
Absolutely,
would do
yes.
that at once, okay? Yeah.
We'll take an extra 5 gallon bucket. We'll put those in as we
Big
go.
Spiders.
Big spiders?
Yeah,
Okay.
big spiders.
I don't like big spiders.
Okay, anyone else on the committee have a question? Okay. Okay. So we can move on to the consent agenda. Does anybody have any changes or corrections for the last set of meeting minutes from May 13? Okay, I do.
Good.
Okay, on paragraph others in attendance, Alan's name is spelled Allan.
Oops. Sorry about that.
And under regular business, committee members, Meeks is spelled Meeks. The 1, 2, 3, 4th paragraph down. And the last paragraph on that same page, it should be Ms. Heinrichs, not my Heinrichs.
Oh, okay.
So this is little spelling tweaks. Anybody else see anything? No? Okay. Can I have a motion to approve the minutes with those minor edits?
I will make that motion
Okay,
as my first.
do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay. Okay, I'm gonna do a roll call. Mr. Jujic,
Aye.
Mr. Seaver,
Aye.
Mr. Williams.
Aye.
Okay, we have 3 ayes and 2 members absent. Okay, moving on. We have receive and discuss information update on the Stewart Street tanks, and that will be Mr. Green.
Great, thank you. Thanks again. So back in February, we started our preliminary meetings and project development for the Stewart Street tank replacements. After we performed our cultural, our geo, we've done our arborist evaluations. We've done pretty much all the permitting and basics for that. And what the geo brought back to us is that basically our foot thick concrete slab or our footings there are just not adequate for today's California building code and seismic requirements. Basically, if we took the tanks as they're built today and submitted those plans, they would not be approved. So there's a couple things and I'll dive into it besides just the footings and so forth. And actually, could you put up the site, the C-103? So some other permitting, not violations, but some permitting issues that wouldn't fly today is one of our tanks is 5-foot setback from our retaining wall on the Stewart Street side of those tanks. And the county's requesting a 10-foot setback from our tanks on that street and on those sides. So with that, we've kind of had to reorientate how we're going to install these tanks here. Currently, the big tank, the 212, if you're looking from the Richard side, facing the stage left would be the larger, the 212 gallon tank. On the stage right would be the 125 million gallon. We're having to move those around and put the smaller one here, so that way we can meet those county planning, building, public works requirements here on the setback there on that street. So we're moving this tank over. We are also adjusting the, can I scroll that up just a little bit here? Oh, the other one, sorry, yeah. So to meet our 10-foot requirement here for setback, we are taking this retaining wall, which basically is on right here right now, and we're kicking that out about 20 feet. So we're gonna take up a lot more space in our, okay. Oh, sorry, okay.
What am I gonna do with you? My battery's time. Sorry.
Anyway, so this is all gonna be staging area. This will still be staging area. It'll be fenced at the time, obviously to keep our materials together and not have everybody walk over or steal or whatever. So this will be fenced. This will all be fenced during the construction. Entrance, ingress and egress will be from the Stewart Street side. But we are gonna take up a little bit larger footprint here for that. So that way we're giving area for us to move around the tanks, in between the tanks, to maintain them in the future when we need to paint or make repairs. Or if you need to bring a scissor lift. What we have right now is barely 5 feet, and you can't even get scaffolding in there to work on the tanks if you need to take care of that. So with those couple things taking place, the foundations, the retaining wall being moved over, the setbacks adjusted. We had a meeting with county, and from their understanding with the level of changes that are being made, this is now a CDP. So we're having to go full CDP with this. So we'll have a presentation at the NCAC meeting next month to discuss that, because that'll go in front of the NCAC group as well. But so yeah, this has become a full-fledged CDP permit process now for us, due to the amount of earth that we're moving and the reorientation of that. Will have no effect on our federal or EPA funding. That still, we look to be awarded that by year's end, or the start of 2025, which is about time that we'll be breaking ground on this. Again, we're working closely with county planning. We're giving them our updates on this. We've submitted our changes and our updates to the EPA, and they deem that it's still within the context of which, you know, they awarded us the funds. So that won't have any effect on us. And so those are just a couple of the major things going on right there. We will be replacing the plumbing on the tanks. Now we'll be a little bit farther setback, but as you can see here, this new thing. Our existing valves will be installed, so this will be completely offline. Or each tank will be individually offline while we're replacing. We are replacing one tank at a time. Internally, we just feel it's too vulnerable to take 350,000 gallons off of storage for 6 months or longer or shorter going into it. So we're replacing all the plumbing directly from here and to here. While we have that out, we will again begin with a 125,000 gallon storage tank and work our way out from there. So yeah, we're just getting the permitting completed, and we're hoping to break ground in October. Again, this is kind of rainy day schedule, so we'll see if we're really in for a La Nina again this year, or if we're gonna have a lot of storms and kind of postpone that. But that's kind of our drop dead date internally for when we want to start and break ground. The update for all this and our basically, I think it'll be about 30 to 60% renderings will be available August 12th. So we'll have that ready to distribute and look at a little bit more closely. So we'll bring that update back to you probably for the September meeting. And we'll probably have a lot better knowledge of hopefully weather patterns, or if we're gonna have time and the ability to break down on that in October or later months.
Okay, does anybody on the committee have any questions? Mr. Jujic?
Are there any drainage issues associated with moving that out? Changes in the I'm not all that familiar with the topography of the area, so are there any effects?
So the swaleway goes from Stewart to Richard Street right there. So yeah, all that does include grading. So they'll make sure that the grading has the right percent of deflection. So that way it won't pool to the neighbor's house or, you know, to our own infrastructure there. So yeah.
That'll all be included in the design.
Absolutely, yes, yeah.
Hey, anybody else? Mr. Williams?
First of all, thanks for the updated map. It answered a bunch of questions that I did have, like why are we out in Stewart Street with one of the tanks? The pads, how much do they have to extend outside the tank there? How large are the pads?
Just that rolled edge out of there will be 6 inches. So
So
12.
It's not like it has.
No, we're not putting this massive, yeah, we're not putting a sidewalk around the tank.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay.
That stays the same as what we currently have. So yeah, it's a 12 inch, so it's 6 on each side.
Thank you. Does the CDP open up any problems with coastal commission or anything like that? Does it open up?
Absolutely. Anytime you go for a CDP, you could have an appellant,
Okay, okay.
which most cases they're frivolous, but you know, nonetheless, still gives that opportunity for those to voice their opinion or concerns.
Okay.
What I'd like to add, and thank you for bringing that up, Derek, what we have in there are bolted steel tanks. And they're kind of ugly to look at. You have the lines and the bolts and everything sticks out. This will be a welded steel tank, which looks like our Fiscalini or like our Lemert tank. So it'll be a nice smooth. We are verifying the color. That Torque Tan is approved. It has a color scale that I forget the name of it right now, that it has to be within this threshold. But it's gonna be a lot more aesthetically pleasing tank. It should blend in a lot better than looking like a military object out there or something like that with all the bolts and seams in there. But yeah,
We don't anticipate any problems with the coastal commission on getting.
I don't think so. Yeah,
It'll
I
just
think
be, if someone appeals it, drags our project.
it
out.
does.
Right.
That adds an automatic month to it at least.
Right,
Yeah.
okay.
Absolutely.
And the bolted tanks, I mean, the welded tanks is not just more aesthetic pleasing than the bolted tanks, but the bolted tanks leak over
Right.
time. And so, yeah, these will last a lot
They're
longer, I
about
think.
twice as much maintenance.
Yeah.
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 You know, from what I've understood, the gasketing and all that stuff is improved and stuff, but I'm just not interested. And not just from the aesthetics, just from the periodic maintenance of it.
Yeah.
You know, because those bolts have to be reviewed. Also with the Division of Drinking Water, every 5 years, you have to dive your tanks. So that just adds an additional cost to that mandatory maintenance that has to be performed. So, because each one of those bolts then has to be inspected. So removing that takes a lot of, so basically since 92, those tanks have been in, you know, we've dove those tanks and inspected those bolts 5 or 6 times. So if we can reduce some of that maintenance cost in the future, I think that helps kind of pay it forward for us now.
And so the grant funds, how are the grant funds distributed? Do we get money when we break the ground, or do we have to have the tanks completed before we get the grant funds?
We do not have to have the tanks completed before we get that grant funding. They just have to approve the project. So right now, they're just kind of waiting on our latest iteration of this.
Okay.
So that's with the orientation. So the site plan just became available today. So later this afternoon, we'll be updating the EPA with the new plans and setting that forward. And then we'll have more of a concrete day when funding will be awarded.
Okay.
But we're still looking at probably late 2024. Which is just their cycle. The EPA for their funding department, they have a fiscal year, which I think runs from, is it September to
I can't remember.
August 31st? It's a little offset off of our, you know, our fiscal year. So that's why they're looking for their new fiscal year opens up, and then our funding will be awarded out of that new fiscal year for them. So.
Okay. Does anybody else on the committee have any more questions? Anybody in the public? No?
I'm sorry, I did have a question on the categorical exclusion document. What are the red notes?
So this is a document that our consultant filled out.
Yeah.
And this highlighting red is some of the things that were changed or that we're altering. So this is kind of full transparency. And then this is the things that they were looking at internally with us. And then these are some of the highlighted items that we discussed with county too.
And it's, so is there going to be another version, another revision of this document, or is it, this is it?
Yeah.
Okay.
This is prior to the final draft. So this is kind of a draft. I kind of want to provide this as an illustration so
Okay.
you can see kind of what we're working with behind the scenes.
Got it. Okay, thank you.
Absolutely.
Does anybody on Zoom have any questions? I don't see any hands up. Okay, so moving along then. We are looking at receiving, discussing an information update on the San Simeon transmission line replacement project.
Fantastic. So obviously this one is definitely a CDP. And We've done a good majority, and I think the majority of our permitting. I think there might be some smaller geo work. Kelly, could I ask you to put up one of our attachments here? And again, I included in this just for you guys to view some light reading. It's our geotechnical from Yeh and Associates.
What page do you want her
And-
to put up?
Okay, sorry. It will be. Let's try, this one here? I don't know what attachment number that is.
I'm not sure. What page is that? Page 48. This one.
Yes.
Page 48. That,
There it is.
there it is. Is that it?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
Good enough for illustration. Well, also in here, first of all, we met with state parks several months ago, and basically everything that's south of the creek up to basically that kind of the ridge or the hill that comes up there is all a natural preserve zone. So how we ever got plumbing in there years ago, I'm not sure, but permitting's a lot more difficult and tricky today, so. What State Parks has requested of us, this is our avoidance area right now. If we could stay away from there 100%, it'd be fantastic. So we're gonna come up this way, which I believe was alternative four initially. And we're gonna come up along Caltrans in their easement and their encroachment area. And then we're gonna come just before that vehicle bridge that goes into the Washburn day use area. Again, we're trying to stay off of Caltrans bridges. Caltrans doesn't like liquid, especially wastewater being bolted to their bridges. So we're trying to stay away from their infrastructure and away from the natural preserve here. So we're gonna come in, turn right or make a 90 and bore or horizontally drill into this is the Washburn parking area here. We'll have, again, an excavation pit where we'll make that interconnection and then make another horizontal drill, this indicates where the interconnection to where we are, but we'll actually have it go under the creek and come out to our property. We'll make that final connection to our infrastructure there. So we're trying to eliminate our installation, our excavation pits to our property whenever possible. And again, by doing that, right here, we have that pedestrian bridge, which I think you guys have all seen the pictures or illustrations of it. We've got, 40-year-old 4x4s holding our, 16-inch pipes together to an old rotting bridge. So we want to get our infrastructure off of that and away from that and again, make that connection to on our property. This will be the staging area over here. So as this pedestrian bridge comes over here, if you guys have ever been on Washburn Road, you see that fence line that comes and then that open field, that's all our property. So that'll be the staging area and then the final installation pit where we'll have that horizontal drill come in and make that interconnection there. And we'll also install another valve there so we can isolate that area. Should we have any problems again in the future between here and then Exotic Gardens or the Dow property. A lot of engineers, like to save money on appurtenances and valves. That we're not trying to do that. We're trying to put some valves because we all know, seismic events or when we have leaks, they're huge. And if we can isolate the areas and keep the rest of the town or community heated up or with, with potable water, and so we can make the repairs the better. So that's what we're looking at for right there. Okay, so again, we had a meeting with Caltrans. We had our fingers crossed. We were a bit nervous. We were actually more nervous to talk about Caltrans and state parks. Both state parks and Caltrans have been fantastic to work with. Caltrans has been really quick to respond to us once we finally got a hold of the right person. So we talked to an encroachment engineer there. And we're kind of finalizing our final drawings here and we'll submit that to them. We should have some 30% or some designs ready by August as well for this that will go forward and submit to state parks and to Caltrans as well. Also, so there are a couple of geo or excavations that we need to do or cores that are taking place along here. I haven't seen any results for those come in, but we're just kind of checking this final area right here to make sure it'll be adequate for us to put our 2 lines in there. We'll be kind of right between the, we're gonna be 27 feet off the edge of road here. Internally here this way going towards the east. And we'll be just outside of AT&T zone there, so. It won't be tricky, but they'll have to be, whoever does it install will have to be very careful, because there's quite a bit, it's a utility easement there, so we'll have AT&T, I think there's some gas company out there. Landline phone, if anybody still has a landline phone, I think goes through there as well, so yeah, we'll be kind of centered right in between there. And also on this illustration, I think it'll show, and Haley's put it on the website for you to view, and it kind of shows you the different utilities in there and our offset between there to keep it safe from construction.
Okay, would you kind of show everybody where the existing temporary pipeline is?
Okay, very good, yeah. So here's that pedestrian bridge. We have our interconnection was right here, and we came through, we buried it about 40 feet here, and then it comes up and it kind of highlines again over here. This is a very densely populated archaeological area. So we went under where we could and we came up to avoid excavation in the archaeological area. Anytime you do work at state parks, they have their own archaeologist who is on site. We does training prior to, and then he's on site during all construction hours. But right now it goes from right here and it just kind of meanders along here and then comes up and is buried from that trail that comes from Exotic Gardens down, entering the state parks property right there. I'm giving exact location, but when it rains and the floods that we have tends to move that pipe. So you can see how much force those big storm events come. There's a section of pipe, I mean, you can't even lift up with your hands or with a forklift. So for that amount of water to come in and move that pipe 17 foot, you can see why it's a concern, why it's a priority for us to move that out of the way. But yeah, that basically is highline right on top, laying on top of that whole nature preserve.
Okay, and then that little circle there,
These are,
the next one up. No, that one, okay. Is that where the temporary pipeline connects to the existing remainder of the pipeline?
just about, yeah.
Okay,
And so, and this is also kind of, it's not really specific, we're just kind of painting with a broad view here, but this will be that, again, that installation or excavation pit where we use to horizontally drill from and through.
okay, and then you're gonna run both pipelines in the trench at the same time?
Correct,
Okay.
yes, 10 foot apart.
Yeah, okay, and can we do the trench that wide? Or is it above and below, or?
Well, so portion will be trenched initially, but we want to horizontally drill.
Okay,
Horizontal drilling is a lot easier for permitting because you have one entrance point and one exit point. And you don't have 2,000 linear feet of 10-foot wide trench that you're removing and then reinstalling.
are you gonna be able to find the existing other infrastructure that's in there, like we were talking about, gas lines and all of
Yeah,
that?
so fortunately, like the gas lines and the power companies, we do now, they put a wire on there so you can locate it exactly. You can get right on top of it and locate that exactly.
Okay,
Yeah. Half of our plumbing here, water and wastewater is identified with that and the other half's not, so, yeah.
okay,
Unfortunately, the other utility companies did that, so we'll have a very good definition of what they are exactly.
okay. I know we've gone over most of this already. I just,
Sure.
for people who might not
Yeah.
have heard it yet, I wanted to get the background information out, Mr. Dujic.
On the part where you had, with your horizontal drilling from the last point to the, keep going, next one down, right there, from there under, have you already determined the depth of that boring?
Yeah, it's in the geo report.
Okay, I didn't see.
That'll all be listed there. We're gonna get pretty deep here. We'll go,
imagine.
we'll probably horizontal drilling. Caltrans minimum cover is 40 inches. That they want there.
Yeah.
I believe it's 40.
42,
So
42.
like AWWA standards for water is 30 inches from top of pipe to top of surface. Caltrans requests 40, which is fine. But some of this boring is gonna go very deep, 10, 17 feet below the surface. And we will cross below the San Simeon Creek, and that's what State Parks is reviewing right now with themselves internally to make sure that they're okay with that.
Okay, thank you.
But yeah, we'll have an install pit here, and then 2,000 feet, I believe it is, till here. It's almost exactly 2,000 feet linearly, and then we'll go ahead and go under here, and then under all the way to our final interconnection there on our property on our Washburn, or Van Gordon house.
And once that's all done and the new pipes are in use, we're gonna remove the pipe that's floating on the surface.
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay.
And we'll actually keep that in-house and in case we ever need to move anything else around. Perfectly good pipe.
Does anybody else on the committee have any questions? No? Anybody in the public sitting here? No? Anybody on Zoom have any questions? I don't see any hands up. Okay, well, thank you. Okay, so I guess we're moving on to the discussion and consideration of approval of the zero liquid discharge pilot testing program, and Mr. Meeks is going to try to get here, and I don't see a check from him yet.
Okay, great. So ZLD, zero liquid discharge. We're looking to partner with Global Water Innovations and Trevi and fix our issue with the most expensive piece of the WRF operations, which is brine. They have several, and we do have a member of Clark from Global Water Innovations here that can join us and describe that. I'll give some background. Right now, we've filed and submitted a substantial conformance determination with the county. They have deemed that a permit is not necessary for us at this time, as it is just temporary operations for a week or several weeks. I've also been working hand in hand with regional water or water boards on some minor permitting implications there of our permeate discharge and so forth. We've submitted a Form 700 to them. And so we're just kind of in the process here. You know, we're over 3 months out from this, and we're just submitting stuff kind of as we get it. And we're working with them because this is new not only to the county, but to the state. So there's just some questions. So fortunately, Global Water Innovations is working very well with regional water board staff and ourselves in providing them with the questions and concerns that they have. And I think I'll let Clark take over.
Welcome, Mr. Easter.
Oh.
No, we can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
I'm clear.
Good. Okay. Good afternoon to all of you. Where would you like me to begin, Jim? And everyone else.
How about, can we just do kind of a brief overview of the process or methodology, and then maybe we can get through to the device it's going to be, and then we can take any questions from there.
Great. Okay, so the fundamental issue is any desalination process. When you desalinate, salts from one portion of the water get pushed into the remaining portion of the water, and that becomes what's known as the brine. What limits the volume of recovery are what are called the sparingly soluble salts in the water, typically known as hardness to the layperson, meaning calcium, magnesium. Those are the items, the salts, that as you start to desalinate, they get concentrated more to higher and higher levels in the brine. And at a certain point, they start to spontaneously drop out and cause what's known as scaling. And the scaling actually cements over the holes in the membranes of your RO system. So RO systems are run very precisely to prevent scaling. They use anti-scalants, they use hydrochloric acid, et cetera, to as chemicals to help prevent scaling to a certain level. But then the RO system does not go beyond that. So that is what limits higher recoveries. That's why you get brine as opposed to zero liquid discharge. So in the pilot that we're doing, we're taking your brine and we are going to soften that brine first. And we're actually going to use two different possible approaches to softening your brine. One of them is known as a switchable solvent, which basically uses an organic solvent, which is extremely hydrophilic, meaning the water is attracted to it. The water gloms onto the organic solvent, the salts drop out of solution, and they then get removed from the bottom of the tank. We then apply heat to the solvent brine mixture, softened brine mixture at that point. And at that point, the solvent becomes a gas again and leaves the tank where we recover it and reuse it again. So that's one approach to softening. We actually had taken samples of your brine a number of months ago, and we did bench phase testing on them. I think I've sent you some pictures of the results. Literally, it was like watching snowflakes drop out of the sky. The salts just start precipitating right out of the calcium, magnesium, etc., start precipitating instantly out of the brine. Once we've softened the brine like that, we can then put it through a specialized membrane. The membrane is exactly like an RO membrane with one important difference. We actually use osmotic pressures on both sides of the membrane so that we can squeeze the brine that's been softened to a much higher level. We would actually take it up to about 300,000 ppm, which is 20 times higher than we would get it in. So that's one possible path. The second path that we're going to be piloting in this approach as well is to use direct current, basically positive and minus charges, direct current charges, to pull out the, to basically split apart your brine into two streams. We would have the calcium and magnesium in one stream and the sulfates in a second stream. That's sort of the approach of separating the bad actors in high school. What happens is at that point, by separating those two streams of brine, you can then take each of them and again concentrate them to a much higher level without risk of scaling. So those are the two approaches that we will be piloting. In each case, what's the purified part that comes out of the end will be the last set of discussions with the water board. The permeate that comes out will probably be exactly as clean as your current permeate is from your current RO system, meaning it would have a TDS of under 500. 500 is normally considered the threshold for fresh water. And so the permeate would come out that way. Your brine would be much more concentrated. It would be up at about 300,000 ppm, about 30% salts. That would go into basically a tote at that point, one of these 250-gallon totes, and that would be hauled off, I believe, to the Kittleman landfill for final disposal. But you would have recovered basically 99% of the water from your original brine. So that means your shipping charges are 99% less. So that's it would be profoundly more affordable for the city than the current method of hauling the brine itself, which is 99% water to an ocean disposal point or to Kettleman. So that's the high level overview, and I'm sure there are lots of questions about it because it's complex topics, but I'm very willing to see what we can do with questions.
Okay, so you're gonna try both of those approaches when you do
Yes.
this type.
That's
Okay.
correct. We're going to try both. Because, okay, that's a great question. Water varies. In desalination, there's no such thing as one standard water. Water is very affected by what minerals and salt ions are in it. And so we think that the one that uses the DC electrical charges to split the calcium and magnesium away from the sulfate will be the better one for you all, but we're not certain until we actually try it. So both of these, the reason we're trying both is to see head to head which one is going to be the optimum one for you all. And off of these pilots are both being overseen by the National Alliance for Water Innovation. So just so they're the ones who are funding this. The money for the pilot is actually coming from the California Department of Water Resources because they think that this project is so vital to the state's interests in terms of being able to desalinate inland water. Cambria is not alone in the problem that you all have had with your brine. Literally, brine, the expense of dealing with brine has torpedoed practically every desalination project in the state that's inland because of the expense of dealing with the brine, hauling it to an ocean disposal point, deep well injecting it. All of those are extraordinarily expensive. So the state knows that to bring much greater resiliency to water supplies throughout the state, they have to be backing better approaches to dealing with brine. And so this is one of those approaches. Just so you realize how that works, for example, we've just finished what are called the PIDs for the process. They are now in front of a NAWE review committee, which is a group of scientists who are all experts in this field. They're looking at all the engineering drawings, the process flow drawings, the sensors, et cetera. All of the data that we collect from this is going to go into a data bank that NAWE has put together so they can track all these pilots. This particular group technology, we actually have 5 sites across the state that are going to be testing this. One of them is a water bank they want to be a water bank in Coalinga. They currently have, they want to build an 80,000 acre foot a year inland desalination. It's all pistachios around Coalinga. So they'll be testing this. We'll be testing it at a brine pond in San Luis Obispo by the airport that currently removes, there's an RO system there that removes barium from water wells in the area around the airport. We'll be testing it at a greenhouse in Santa Maria. And then we'll be also testing it at one of 2 possible oil companies on their produced water. So we have a wide range of test sites, and all of that data goes into this state database that's run by NAWE.
If you guys don't mind, I'd like to ask one more question before I go to the committee for questions. Okay, so you said that we recover 95 to 99% of the water through this process of condensing down the brine
Yes.
waste. What happens to that water?
Okay, that's actually been the very point of discussion with the water board at the moment. Are you talking in the future or for the pilot? Which are you talking?
From the pilot and in the future.
Okay, so the water board's been asking about during the pilot. That's why they wanted to know the quality of the water that will be discharging. And my prior comment is that the quality of the water will be under 500 ppm TDS. It will be the same quality as your current permeate from your RO system, meaning it's fresh water. For the pilot, Jim, jump in here. I think you all had proposed simply putting it back to the percolation pond again. Is that accurate?
Correct, yeah. If the specs meet water board standards, yeah, that would be discharged to land there.
Yes.
Okay, so there won't be any solvents or any other
Anti-scalants.
anti-scalants or anything in it?
No, there will
Okay.
not. It uses the final polishing of that water uses RO membranes just like your current process does. So the only difference is that we've removed the sparingly soluble salts, the scaling ones, so that we can use an RO membrane to a much higher recovery level. That's the only difference.
Okay. Does anyone else on the committee have any other questions regarding this? And then I'd like to talk to him about the footprint. Okay. Go ahead.
Just,
Mr.
could you
Hughes.
tell us a little bit about how the schedule for this project relates to the schedule of the other projects that you have?
You all, because you're my hometown, you get first choice. So whatever your schedule is, I've been living with short showers for many years now, and I would really like to see the problem solved. Basically, you all get to choose whether you want to be first in line or third in line. It's up to you all. And it's dependent upon how soon as soon as the Norway review team signs off on our electronic and process drawings, etc., we'll be constructing the trailer. We're currently anticipating it's going to be ready sometime beginning of Q4 is what we currently think. So basically, as if you all want to be first in line, you can be. If you want to wait till spring, you can. It's entirely up to you all.
Okay, just a second. I heard from Mark Meeks and he's a little bit too far away to make it for today's discussion. So we're probably going to bring this back for a vote at our next meeting. So
Okay.
anyway, if you excuse me a minute, I'm letting him know not to rush.
Okay.
Anybody else have any questions?
Talking to the audience.
Talking to the audience.
Okay, I just, the two processes, is there a big difference in cost between doing the two? I mean, is there any advantage one way or the other?
Let's see. The answer is that's part of why we're running the pilot, is to see what the final costs are, so we have very precise numbers. We'll have enough data off of it to see. Capital costs, we think they're probably around the same, but we haven't built commercial units of either of these yet, where, you know, the pilot units will give us a much better idea of the cost to do that, will give us a much better idea of final costs. Operating costs, the switchable solvent one, which uses the organic solvent, that requires a heat pump to generate heat, because we use heat. We heat the brine after we've used the solvent to separate the brine back into a gas again. And so the heat pump will have some costs associated with it. The other process, we're using direct current. That has more, instead of thermal energy, that's got electrical energy. So the answer is, I don't really know yet. We should have those numbers. Well, we will have those numbers out of the pilot itself. Our overall target for this is to, between CapEx and OpEx, we believe we're going to come in under $6 a cubic meter. There are 264 gallons in a cubic meter, so that would be imply that it should be a levelized cost of around 3 cents per gallon. That compares favorably with your 25 cents a gallon to haul your brine off to disposal. Plus you'd get 95% plus of the water back, whereas if you haul your brine off for your disposal, that water is lost forever. So that just gives you some ballpark economics.
Okay, anybody else?
Yeah, you mentioned that probably the totes will be taken to Kettleman. Is that an assumption for the full size, for the full scale process also? We should probably assume that's where it'll be taken to.
Okay,
Hard to say.
yeah, so the answer is that's certainly a default assumption. We're actively working right now on a carbon sequestration method, which would use the salts themselves for the long-term storage of and sequestration of CO2 from the atmosphere. This is a very hot area of research. We one approach that is very effective, where the site I mentioned that we're working with a water district in the Pleasant Valley Water District in Coalinga area. They're very gung-ho about this solution. So we're actively out there starting to talk about grants, et cetera, to prove that it works. Removing carbon dioxide from the atmosphere to date has been incredibly expensive. There are plants in Iceland and in Texas right now that are costing about $1,000 a ton to remove CO2 from the atmosphere. We think that by using salts that we're producing from the brine, that we'll actually be able to do it under $100 a ton, which would make us the cheapest CO2 removal system in the world at this point. So that's definitely a ways down the road. I have lots of papers on it if you want to read them, but that's what we're actively pursuing. Just to give you a sense, from the site in Coalinga, just our first stage implementation there of 24,000 acre feet a year, we'd be removing 40,000 tons a year of salt from their water. Significant numbers of salts, et cetera. What I'd like to see across time is that we'll actually build sort of regional hubs to take the salts from different sites and use them for this purpose. But as I said, our backup assumption at this point is Kettleman. Our aspirational assumption is CO2 removal.
Any more questions from the committee? Okay, you want to go ahead and talk to us a little bit about the actual infrastructure that's going to be placed here for the pilot project, the footprint and all of that?
Yes, we're bringing in a 40-foot mobile trailer. It will be pulled in by a truck. It will be parked on site. We've met with Jim and his team. We've agreed where it would be put. Jim, have you seen like the diagram or the picture or anything like that? Because I don't have that. At my
Yeah, I don't
fingertips.
think I've made that available, but I can.
Yeah. There's a gravel parking pad, which is right next to an electrical takeout box. It would make it very easy just to pull the trailer onto that gravel, so we wouldn't be disturbing the ground or anything else. We would install temporary pipes between your current two brine tanks, which are, I think each of them, is what, a 5,000 barrel brine tank, I think. There are two of them you have. And we'd put temporary piping over to the 40-foot mobile container, put a temporary electrical hookup in, and we'd also bring several polyethylene tanks, what are called sort of equalization tanks. As we move from one stage of the process to the next, water would go into those tanks and that would be pulled on to the next stage of the process, et cetera. There would be no permanent changes to site. When we're done, you won't know we've been there. So it is a totally temporary installation.
Any questions on that part? I know. Okay, so we have a member of the public that has some questions. You want to let him in, or do you want me to, Haley? Say me or you? You. Okay. I'm not quite sure. I haven't done it for so long.
Just
Not working for me. I did try.
Good afternoon, Chair D and members of the committee. We have the following suggestions for discussion and consideration. The CCSD will need to sign a contract with Global Water Innovations and Trevi Systems before the ZLD pilot project can proceed. We recommend that this committee review the contract before recommending approval of the project by the Board of Directors. The water processed by the ZLD system will be disposed of into the San Simeon percolation ponds. This likely will require a permit because of the potential for solvents and antiscalants to enter the basin groundwater and lagoon. Is the CCSD responsible for obtaining the required permits? The committee should investigate the permitting requirements and responsibilities before recommending approval by the Board of Directors. And that's my comment. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. I believe a lot of those questions were answered during Mr. Easter's presentation. Do you have anything else to say about the contract?
No, that's been something that Global Water and I've talked about, and we've got legal counsel in, and as soon as we provide that agreement for council's review, we'll bring that forward.
Okay. Do you think we'll be ready for our next R&I meeting?
When's your next meeting? Excuse me?
We're going to reschedule our meeting, I think, to August 5th.
Okay.
The answer is I will have it a first draft submitted to you all with this probably within the next 2 weeks. So
That would give us time to make the agenda.
Pardon me?
That would give us time to put
Yeah,
that on the
that
agenda.
gives us time to put it on the agenda for our next meeting. We already talked about what was going to be the quality of the water that would be disposed of into the percolation ponds, and it's going to be the same quality as our current drinking water coming from the facility. And I believe you already answered the question about the permits. Okay. Hey, does anybody else have any questions? Okay, we cannot take a vote on this because legal counsel tells me we need to have 4 committee members to vote on this topic. So are we, can we let him go or?
Certainly, yeah.
Okay, I don't think anybody else has any questions, so I'm gonna go ahead and let you go if you don't have any more valuable information to impart to it.
I'm good if you all are good. So,
Everybody good?
Thank you.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
it.
okay, you're very welcome. Thank you.
So, what we're talking about doing is, right now, our, current R&I meeting is scheduled for what, I think the 12th. And we'd like to bring this before the board, at the meeting on that following Thursday, which puts it a little bit close. So what we're talking about doing is if everyone is available, you're not available August 5th. Okay, we need to have at least 4. So, let me check in with Jim Webb and with Mark Meeks to see if they're available on the 5th. They're not available on 5th, and we'll need to try to work out another date. So, Mr. Williams, are you available on August 5th?
It looks like it, yeah.
Are you available on August 5th?
In the afternoon, at least, not in the morning.
Yeah, we usually do this in the
I
afternoon.
might have to call in and be online, but I could. do it.
We're not allowed, if you're a committee member, you can't zoom
That's
in.
right. I'll double check. I'll
Okay.
get you. Let you know.
So in the meantime, would the 3 of you give us your available dates going forward so that we can at least get this done a good week or more before the second board meeting of the month?
Well, the original date was fine for the meeting for me.
Yeah, we can only do the original date if the board is willing to move it to the first meeting in September.
Is there an issue with pushing till September?
There's not for us. We're looking at, we have that tri-state seminar that starts on the 5th.
Oh, right.
As well.
So,
Oh, so you're not available on the 5th either?
Well, as of right now, but we'd like to attend the seminar.
Okay, but you're available on the 12th.
Yes.
Okay, so are both of you available on the 12th? Okay, so maybe Mr. McElhaney and Ms. Dodson can check to see if the board is willing to put this on September.
I'll ask them during agenda review tomorrow.
Okay, you have agenda review tomorrow. Okay. We'll get this done somehow. Okay, yeah, it's, just like the board can't zoom in. Yeah, our committee members can't zoom in unless it's a medical issue, like you're home with COVID or something like that. So, okay.
You'd be somewhere else and have COVID?
Well, we need Mr. Green here too. We need our utility staff here, so if they're not available on the 5th, we'll see what we can do. Okay, so does anybody have any other future agenda items for when we do meet? You're not sure if you're gonna be ready for your, geomagnetic or whatever you.
I'll have some report, yeah, say yes, yeah, because we're just waiting to hear back from the company that I've sent information to.
Okay, and then
Yeah.
we'll check to see whether Mr. Meeks will be ready with his solar hydro solar panels.
I needed.
No. Okay, so we'll see what we can do as far as getting it to stay on the 12th. Okay. I appreciate it. And so we're gonna bring this back to you. Is there anything else you want on the agenda?
Maybe just for a discussion topic, we need to replace our backup power generator at rodeo grounds. That powers not only the booster site, the treatment plant there for SR3, but FNR as well for backup power, so.
Okay. Okay, what about the stream gauge?
Stream gauge will be, and that'll be a great August topic. Yeah, we actually have a meeting with county tomorrow to discuss the specifics of that, so we'll have that available.
Okay, we've had that on the agenda twice.
I've had a staff report written for a while, but we need there's some specifics that we need from the county before I feel comfortable bringing it to our committee.
Okay. Anybody else have anything they'd like to put on the agenda for August? No, okay. Okay, then I guess we're done for today. And it is, if no one has any, it's 3:12. If nobody has any objections, I'll go ahead and adjourn the meeting.